Hello, good morning. I hope that everybody is well and that you've had a good week. So much has happened this week and I have got so much to talk about today. I don't know where to start. One of the most amazing things that has happened, the courier came with some boxes, and there was a box in my porch that I presumed was a sampler that I had purchased at auction and was being delivered. So I brought the box in and I opened it, and I can remember thinking, I can't remember buying a sampler this size. And Mailboxes, who is a shipping company, when they send samplers, they always tape the glass up. So I started to pull the tape off and I thought, I can't remember buying this sampler. Anyway, when I took all the tape off, this beautiful sampler was revealed. And of course, this isn't a sampler I bought at auction. This is a sampler that my very dear friend Michelle Moulin-White stitched and sent to me because of our friendship and to celebrate Friendship Day. It's really, really beautiful, and I can't tell you how touched I was. This was a total surprise. Now, Michelle is Mill on the Floss Samplers. Michelle, Krista and myself, we go back so many years, and you know, we are very good friends. Michelle has released this sampler for sale on her website, Mill on the Floss Samplers. But what's different about this one is that she has added Michelle Moulin 2021 for Nicola Parkman. I am so touched. And you know what? It's so true. Friends are the flowers in the garden of life. They fill the world with beauty. Friendship is so important. It's a precious thing, and it's something that you have to cherish and look after, because, you know, my stitching friends and my sort of other friends in life, they are so important to me. This is so beautiful, and I really love the fabric that Michelle has stitched it on, which is a fabric that she has over dyed and she sells under the name of Tabby Cat. This is really beautiful. I'm the girl in red. It's just delightful, and I'm sure that many of you who have seen this sampler released on social media have already purchased the chart. But if you haven't, go onto Michelle's website, Mill on the Floss Samplers, and grab a copy and stitch this, and maybe next year for Friendship Day you can gift this to your friend. This is just fabulous, really fabulous, and I can't wait to hang this in my home. This one will probably go into my bedroom. The things I hang on the wall in my bedroom are things that have extra special meaning to me. Beautiful. Thank you, Michelle. Okay, oh, and the other thing that Michelle sent to me was some fabulous linen. And this linen is 37 count. I'm always saying to Michelle, I need grungy fabric. So she said, is this grungy enough for you? Yes, it is. It's beautiful. Look at this. That's going to stitch up beautifully for a reproduction sampler. For those of you that are worried about the markings, you know, the aging on the fabric, when you stitch over it, it really blends in so beautifully, and it adds a lot of age to your sampler. On Michelle's Friends sampler, there was a lot of staining on this, but by the time that Michelle's stitched over the staining, it becomes sort of mellowed in, and it just adds age to the sampler. And what you should do when you have a piece of over-dyed fabric is think about where the staining is falling and where you would like to have that in your sampler. And also look at the other side of the fabric. It can slightly, it can be slightly different. And decide which side of the fabric that you would want to stitch on. There's never a right or a wrong side when it comes to linen. It's the one that appeals to you the most. Thank you, Michelle. You know how I feel about this sampler because I was straight on the phone to her when I opened it. Gosh, it was such a surprise. I had another gift this week, and again, this just came out of the blue. One of my favourite makers of project bags is Tracy of Oh So Twinkle Crafts. Now Tracy is such a gifted needleworker, and she makes some fabulous project bags, pouches, dust covers, grime guards, all sorts of things, and she sells these products in her Etsy store. Go along and have a look. Her products are absolutely amazing. The finish on her products are, honestly, they could be sold in the top department stores in the world. Her stitching is perfection. Tracy made me something that I've wanted for a long time, and I had discussed with her previously. This is a cover for my Millennium frame. Now Tracy can make these covers any size that you want. I wanted an extra big one for my large frame. And everything that Tracy does is just perfection. The cover is two-sided, so I can coordinate the cover with whatever project I'm using, and with my home as well. Occasionally I stitch in this chair actually, because the view is so beautiful from here, and you know, sometimes I want a little bit of peace and quiet away from the dogs, and I come in here and stitch. And this is a beautiful, beautiful fabric for the colour scheme I have in this room. So this is the cover that she's made for me, and it's perfect for my 36-inch frame. And that's the other side. And let me put my glasses on a minute. Tracy's top stitching, it's just all perfection. Her finish is amazing. And what Tracy's done, she's put some little button hoops, elasticated button hoops on here, so that I can tie this, or sort of use the buttons to secure it around my Millennium frame. And what you can do is you can have buttons on both sides, and you can have them in different positions. So I can have buttons in one position for when my frame is this depth, and then I could have buttons in another position for when I've got my medium sidebars on, and again when I have my long sidebars on. So this cover for my frame is very, very flexible. When you go on to Tracy's Etsy, or go into her Etsy store, she has a lovely taste in fabrics. I love all the patterns that she chooses. Very, very nice taste. Go along and have a look. You won't be disappointed. Now, just even the way she's gone round these these curves on the top stitching, just very, very professional. So thank you, Tracy. That was a really lovely surprise, and I'm so grateful that you found the time to do this for me. I ought to do these things myself, but I know that Tracy will do it far, far better. Okay, just a quick look to show you. This is a band sampler, and it's a reversible band sampler. That's the front, and this is the back. That's right, because on the video this looks like the front, but of course the video is reversing things when I'm looking at it. I presume that when you're looking at it, it's going to be right. This will be a project for the future. It was going to be a workshop for this year, but obviously with travel restrictions, I can't fly to the States or Canada at the moment. But something to look forward to for the future. Okay, so let's have a talk about what's going on. Well, this week I've had a massive delivery of booklets, and my porch was overflowing. I couldn't believe it when I saw how many boxes had come. 3 different charts had come at the same time. I don't think that my delivery driver was very happy carrying all the boxes. In that delivery was the booklet for Eliza Martha Linford, and this is a beautiful booklet. I'm just so pleased with the way that it's turned out. She has her label for the back of your finished sampler and your thread legend to use this as a bookmark as you're stitching. Eliza is already en route to the sponsoring stores, which is Traditional Stitches in Canada, A Stitching Time in Australia, A Needle in a Haystack in California, and the Attic Needleworks in Arizona. What has been particularly pleasing for me to see the number of needleworkers who are joining us in the stitch along from Australia. It's really, really wonderful. Australia is a country that's very, very dear to Hands Across the Sea samplers. Like Sandra, is an Australian, and although we're sort of like in different hemispheres, Sandra and I, we are so close. We talk every day, and it's just really, really lovely that stitchers from Sandra's country are really coming out in force to stitch Eliza. And I know that Carolyn of A Stitching Time in Tasmania has a wonderful reputation for customer service and is looking after those needleworkers. Carolyn should have the booklets hopefully by the end of this week. They're not going to be dispatched out until the end of August, but this is such a big logistical operation that stores need time to pack up the kits. It's a huge job cutting the linen, serging the linen, folding it, sorting out all the threads and putting them all together nicely in packaging to ship out to customers. I never realised how long it took to pack an order until I had to do it myself. The discount for the kits ended at midnight on the 31st of July, so that discount is now finished. But that doesn't mean to say that you can't join in the stitch along for Eliza. You can still purchase the kits and the charts. The booklets are available on the Hands Across the Sea Samplers website. We have a flat shipping fee of just £3. It doesn't matter how many items you order or where you live in the world. the total shipping charge is only £3 per order. Anyway, there she is. And the other thing I was really, really pleased about was that the photographer captured Eliza's colours so true to her colours, and then the printers you know, printed it true to colour as well. That's such a good representation of the actual model of the sampler. I was really, really pleased with that. Sometimes it's so hard to capture the colour of a sampler. I'm very, very grateful to my photographer. He's very, very good. He used to be based in London, and he used to be a fashion photographer, so he understands about colour and textiles and textures, and he totally gets that, and he understands about the lighting. He decided to come back to Cornwall, where he was originally from, and I'm so blessed that I have this wonderful talent so close to me. He is no longer contagious. He's come through COVID, and he's starting to work again. And in fact, as I'm filming this, he's actually doing a photo shoot and filming a video for me for a little release that we will have coming out in a couple of weeks' time. No, I'm not going to say a word. I'm always bursting to share things with you, but I'm not going to say a word about that. Okay, so what else happened this week? Well, we had a release of this sweet little red sampler, and this red sampler is also a Norfolk sampler, so Carolyn Paige, a Norfolk red. Such a pretty little sampler. Carolyn stitched this sampler when she was 8 years of age, and it's cross stitch over 2 threads. There is some over 1 on her name, and there is a small row of Algerian eyelets over 8 stitches. Now, if you don't like stitching Algerian eyelets, you can always replace an eyelet with 4 cross stitches, or you could do a rice stitch. Rice stitches are one of my favourite stitches to do, and they work up so quickly, and it adds beautiful texture to your sampler as well. Now, Carolyn Paige, she was 8 years of age in 1832 when she stitched her sampler, and we actually know quite a bit about Carolyn. Carolyn was the daughter of a wealthy farmer, Isaac Paige, and his wife, Martha Bacon. The Norfolk Bishop's transcripts reveal that Isaac and Martha married on December the 22nd, 1814, and they had 5 children between the years of 1817 and 1825. Carolyn was the baby of the family. She was christened on February the 18th, 1825. Her father died shortly after, on March the 15th, and her mother died in the December of 1835 when Carolyn was only 10 years of age. The family lived at Saxingham Hall in Saxingham, Nethergate, which is about 9.5 miles south of Norwich in Norfolk. Carolyn stitched her sampler as part of her education, and it is most likely that Carolyn attended the private school at Saxingham or had a governess. We know that her father was a person of property, and that under the terms of his will there was a trust fund for Carolyn. Carolyn married Thomas Richard Howes of, and I'm not quite sure how to pronounce this, but we'll have a go, Taco Neston Hall Farm on September the 15th, 1846, and the Howes were wealthy farmers. Now, we have failed to find any further record of Carolyn until the 1871 census return. It's possible that Carolyn and Thomas were travelling or lived abroad. From newspaper archives, we know that Thomas died at 37 years of age in London in 1863. Carolyn can be found in the 1871 census living in Yelverton, Norfolk, and she's recorded as a widow living on income from money invested. In the 1881 census, she is recorded as living with her sister Amelia and brother-in-law Alfred Thrower of Thrower's Farm in Yelverton. Alfred had a substantial land holding. We can find no record of Carolyn and Thomas having any children. Carolyn died on March the 6th, 1861, at 61 years of age. The sampler Carolyn stitched when she was just 8 years of age is her legacy to us. We are so pleased that it has survived and that we are all able to enjoy replicating her needlework. The model of Carolyn was stitched by Boomer Avaradhan, and Boomer loves her red samplers and has stitched, or has recently stitched, the sisters Hannah and Ella Wilkinson for us as well. I love red, and red samplers, they make a fabulous sampler wall, whether it's a red sampler amongst colours or whether it's just a sampler wall of just red samplers. They are so stunning. Now, in the booklet we give you directions for cross stitch over 2 and 1 and Algerian eyelets, and then in our little spiral bands there is the start of the graph, and this is the entire width of the sampler, so you can open up the booklet and just stitch along. With Carolyn, we list the thread quantities that you need from whether it's 28 count linen or up to 56 count linen, and whether you're stitching with DMC, Soie d'Alger or Soie 103 from Overa Soie. All the quantities are listed here for you. If you stitched her on 28 count linen, she would be 8.86 by 12.57. If you stitched her on 36 count linen, she would be 6.89 inches by 9.78. Or if you stitched her on 46 count linen, which is what Boomer stitched the model on, it would be 5.39 inches by 7.65. And the linen that we used is from Ex Ducas Designs, and it was over-dyed to the darker version of marbled pointer. It's a super little sampler. It's not going to take you long, but it's going to look fabulous on your sampler wall. This week I had the pleasure of lacing another red sampler. Now, this isn't a new sampler. This is Harriet Salt, and this is a Harriet that a friend of mine has stitched, and I've laced the sampler for her, and I'm getting it framed with my framer in Penryn. Sullies of Penryn, they really understand about framing samplers and, you know, using the right products and, you know, framing them in, you know, their framing is very, very good. If you're in the UK, it might be worth looking or speaking to Sullies about framing your samplers. So this is Linda's Harriet Salt, and Linda wanted her Harriet framed in the same way as Harriet Salt's model was framed. So I'm taking this now to the framers who have reopened from their COVID on Tuesday, and they will pop this into a frame, and then I will give this to my friend when I see her in September. This is really lovely. I'm not exactly sure what the colour is that Linda has stitched Harriet with, but it's an over-dyed red, and it's really lovely. Harriet Salt is, you know, a really special Bristol orphanage sampler. We'll be releasing a new Bristol orphanage sampler soon. It's all framed, and I received the photographs from a photographer last night. Now I've just got to put the booklet together. Okay, what else? Well, do you remember the sampler I showed last week in my video? It was sat here, the antique sampler. Well, I took it out of the frame, and I've started to chart it, and I'm stitching this one myself. And I just wanted to show you something about this sampler, because I think part of these Flosstube videos should be about sharing experiences, because we all learn from each other. I'm constantly learning from my needlework friends. These carnations. Now, when you look at these carnations from the front, I see red, I see a salmon pink, and I see a pale lemon. When I look at the back of this sampler, that pinky salmon has disappeared altogether, and we have an orange. And this is where there is always a dilemma with what is a reproduction sampler. And when Sue, my friend, we filmed the video for Mary Ramage, we talked about how important that we felt it is that if the little girl who stitched the sampler looked down from heaven and saw what we were stitching, that she would recognise that what we were stitching was based on her sampler. And I do think that part of that is that we use the colour choice that that little girl made. Now, there's one thing using a bright red. If she used a bright red and we chart from the front, and the front colours have faded to a more mellow red, but when a colour has gone from an orange to a salmony pink, should we be reproducing that with an orange, or should we be reproducing it with a pink? You often see purples having faded from a purple to, or completely faded out into, like, you know, like a pale cream colour or a bleached colour, or like a very pale rose. And sometimes people say, oh, you know, you don't see many samplers with that colour on, but actually there were lots of samplers stitched with that particular colour, but that colour was one before chemical dyes that faded very quickly into something different. So my dilemma is I'm going to reproduce Esther using the colours found on the front, the faded colours on this sampler. Sometimes we use the back colours, sometimes we use the front, but I have decided that Esther speaks to me from the front colours. But do I pull through the orange, so I'm using the colour that she chose, or do I use the colour that it has morphed into? And I'm not talking about going from you know, bright to faded, strong to mellow. I'm talking about going from one colour into a completely different colour. It's a dilemma, but we shall see as we go along. I often feel that these girls speak to me as I go along, and that might sound batty, but that's how I feel. You can often feel whispers of the girls in their samplers. You know, their spirit is still there in that work. Now, I started this sampler on Friday night, I didn't get to stitch very much, but I did start it, and I worked on her a little bit more yesterday. And last night I added, this is where I started, and that was my first night, and I'm really pleased with how these colours are looking. They're very, very true to the front of the original sampler. They're working very harmoniously together and with the linen. I was going great guns until I stitched this flower, and last night I thought, that is not sitting with these colours and linen to the same shade as it does when you look at the reel in isolation. So I went back, and I didn't want to unpick this last night because I always believe look at it when your eyes aren't tired, when you've had a chance to sleep on it. But what I did, I took these flowers out and I restitched them in a different colour, and last night this colour was looking much truer to the original, but I wanted to look at it this morning in daylight. And basically the difference is between those two colours. I don't know if those colours show up for you. If I showed these colours to my husband, he would just say they're both red. But this one has a little bit more orange in it, and this is the one that looks truer to the sampler when I put it onto the linen, when I stitch with it. When you stitch with something, it can look very different to how it looks on the spool. So I have decided this morning that I'm unpicking this one and I'm replacing it with that one, and that's much, much truer to the original sampler. And it was really when I put this on this linen with the other colours that it just wasn't working, even though it looked a really good match when I was pulling it with the sampler. So many things to think of when you are reproducing. But I'm really grateful that Vers Soir, in their 103s, you know, Access Commodities are making more and more colours available to the Soir 103 range all the time, and I love these little nuances, and to my eye these are important. So you know, I'm going to be unpicking this and replacing it with the slightly orangier one. So I'm going from 523 to 644 on this particular flower. Little things, but those little details are what are important to me. The fabric I'm using for Esther's sampler is an overdyed fabric by Ducas of Exeter Designs. This is Old Sheep. There is a lovely warmth to the colour, even though it is a light colour. And let me just show you from the back. It's a good match to the original sampler. Now this sampler is quite dirty in parts, but it's actually a really good match to the original sampler. This little girl, look at that Carrie. She obviously didn't care. She wasn't going to win a prize in a needlework competition, but bless her. I'm hoping that we can find Esther. I haven't looked yet, but I'm looking forward to that. I have charted this sort of border, and it was a nightmare because she didn't stick to the same number of threads as she stitched. These little girls, they have their little moments when they are doing their needlework, but I guess, you know, we have our little moments as well. Is there anything else? I think that's probably my news caught up. The amount of packing I've done this week, I am fed up with cellophane bags, but you know, we have some really, really lovely samplers coming out in the month of August. Excited to share those with you. But I'll keep those for future weeks to talk about. Thank you to everybody who has purchased either the booklet of Carolyn or the PDF. She's available in both formats. The charts were late leaving to go to our distributors. These little booklets were meant to have been with us last Monday, but they were actually couriered. There was a special delivery for them on Thursday. The printers sent a gentleman down in a van because they'd messed up on this particular order. So Thursday night they were packed and they were picked up and have left to go to our distributors. So they should have them by the middle of the week ahead. But you know, they are available from needlework stores around the world and from the Hands Across the Sea Samplers website. The week ahead, what does it hold? Well, we're going out next Saturday in the evening, providing nothing happens with COVID. We're going to meet up with some friends, and we're looking forward to that. It's so lovely to be out and about, enjoying life. I wish the border would open up in the US for people to travel from the UK. At the moment, people can travel from the US to the UK, but we can't travel to the US. It doesn't seem fair. And summer school is this month. How I wish I could be there, but that's not going to happen this year. Yeah, it's life is very, very strange. You know, normally Ray and I would be doing so many things, travelling. You know, normally this time of year we would be in the Mediterranean, and I get all these sort of things come up in my Facebook feed, you know, memories, and I wish I was on a cruise ship somewhere in the Med, but yeah, it's not to be. Okay, so I'm starting to waffle, so I'm going to say stay safe, stay well, and if God is kind, I'll be back next weekend. Bye-bye.